Hi everyone, it's me, Lacie from Creative Barracks. I'm here to teach everyone how to create a little cottage or fairy house out of a clay pot. If you've ordered one of our kits, the kit has everything you need plus a little bit extra just in case. Get everything set up on a clean surface and let's get started. To get started, what we want to do is take the pot and move it out of the way, because we want to work with just our little dish first. I'm going to cut a piece of clay, and I'll tell you what. Yeah? So what color is this?
Green, brown.
Brown. So I'm going to take a piece of my brown clay. I'm going to squish it as flat as I can into a pancake, and I'm going to squish it down into the bottom of the middle of my dish, and I'll show you what that looks like. Just like this. Okay? Yeah. So cut a little piece, just a little piece, just a little slice, not a big one.
Guess what?
Great.
Joker!
Okay.
Joker!
Yep.
I don't like Joker.
Oh. For our next step,
Guess what? I don't want so long.
yeah, we need to use our light green piece of clay, and we need to cut a small piece of our dark green clay. So I'm gonna make a sandwich. This is gonna sound silly, but I'm gonna make a green sandwich. Okay, so look. Awesome job. Very nice.
For bread?
Mm-hmm.
You take a piece of brown.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we have our green sandwich? Yeah? Okay. So now what we have to do, we have to mash up our green sandwich. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to squish and rip and then squish it back on top. Okay? So it'll look really messy. That's the whole idea. It's supposed to look really messy when you rip and stick. So rip and squish and rip and squish. Okay? And when you're done ripping and squishing, you're going to roll it into a ball. Okay? And to roll it into a ball, you just put it in one palm and roll it around with the other palm. Okay? We need to turn this ball into a big worm. So I'm just going to put it flat on the table. I'm going to roll it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm going to keep doing this over and over and over again until it's a big, long snake. Okay? Yes, you could probably do it even longer if you wanted to. Okay. Now, what do you think this green is going to be for? Do you remember what I said?
Grass.
Grass.
Is this good?
It might need to be a little bit longer, but I'll show you, okay, and you can decide. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my snake and I'm going to squish it around the top of the edge of my dish. So I'll show you what that looks like as soon as my hands are finished creating. And you can do the same thing. Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna do something like this. Next step is totally optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but you're gonna use your cutting knife and you're just going to poke holes and lines and dots into your grass to give it some texture. We aren't trying to stab holes into it. We're just trying to add little bumps or lines to the surface of it. For our next step, we need to take our dish and just move it out of the way because we're going to work on our flower pot. So we want to make sure our flower pot is sitting upright. step, I'm going to give you one piece of blue. Can everyone say one piece of blue?
One piece of blue.
Okay, and I'm going to get you to cut it in half. If you cut it in half, how many pieces of blue will there be?
2.
Yep. These 2 pieces of blue are going to become windows, so I want you to squish them to the side of your clay pot in 2 different spots. Okay? So they're going to stick out a little bit, and that's okay, and it'll look a little silly at first, but we'll build them in. So you want to make your door into whatever door shape you imagine, okay? So I'm going to make mine with a curve on the top. Then I'm going to find the perfect spot for the door on my home, and I'm going to squish it on near the bottom, okay? And if some of your clay isn't sticking completely, don't worry too much. Once we get everything on, it'll be okay.
This window keeps falling out.
For the next step, I gave everyone a little bit of brown and a little bit of black. I want you to roll both of these pieces into worms. Okay, so you're going to take your 2 pieces, hold one hand still, and spin with the other hand. Okay, and we're making kind of like a little rope. Okay, and whenever you're done, just lay it flat on the table.
Can I?
If you don't want your rope to be as bumpy, you can roll it now. So what'll happen is it becomes a stripy snake. You don't have to if you like the texture of it. Okay, this is going to be the frame for our door. Okay, does that make sense? So to put the frame on our door, you're going to squish one end of your rope around the side of your door until it reaches all the way around. Okay, and your string is probably going to be a little bit too big, and that's okay. I'm going to squish it and squish the ends around the bottom, and you've got a little door. Okay. For this next step, we're going to use any excess pieces from our door. Okay. The little bit of black that I gave you at the beginning. Okay. And our big piece of brown, our leftover brown. And this piece of orange that I'm going to give everyone. Using our black, our brown, our white, and our orange, we're going to mix these pieces together. Okay, so we're making tiny little rocks, and you're just going to swirl together colors. Okay. And then squish them on. And we're filling in all the space between our doors and windows. Okay. And the more colors, so for example, if you mix a little bit of orange, a little bit of black, a little bit of brown, a little bit of white, that's going to make a completely different color. So have fun playing with the colors, have fun swirling, making little swirly marbles.
Could I use some of the leftover like green colors?
If you have leftover greens, you can absolutely use those colors too. Okay, good question.
Please don't Can I have pink
What are you going to use the pink for?
for
Next, I want you to take your big chunk of brown clay, flatten it out as much as you possibly can, and cut it into little rows.
Awesome.
Once you cut them into little rows, they may look a little different than mine.
Yep,
You're
whatever
going
you
to
think
chop
looks good
them
is
so that
cool
they're
with me.
tiny little squares.
Okay.
These are
and
going
I
to
think
become
I have
the shingles for the top of our little fairy house. Or cottage. That doesn't have to be a fairy house. So you can see here, I'm just chopping things into tiny little squares. I'm making lots of them. So once I've got
You're
them, I
finished your
can
roof?
Yeah.
Okay.
attach them all at once. But if you want to
What
do a
you
few
can
at
do
a time,
next,
you can.
if you're
You
finished
can
your
do them
roof,
a little
come
bit
on
bigger
over,
than
let me-
mine. You can do them smaller if you want. I'm going to squish mine once they're chopped up. You'll see what that looks like in just a minute. Okay, so now I'm ready to attach my little shingles. I want to make sure that the first row of shingles go onto the bottom edge of the rim of my pot, and I want to make sure that the bottom of each little shingle overlaps the top of the wall of my cottage. Okay, so it's overlapping all the little pebbles I put on there. And I'm squishing each little shingle over top of the shingle I put down before. So I'm just going all the way around. Okay, squishing them on really well. The reason all of this stuff works together isn't because the clay is good at squishing to the pot. It's that when we use the clay to wrap itself around the entire pot, it holds itself together. So we need to make sure that the entire side of our pot is covered and that we wrap the top layer of shingles over the edge of the rim. Okay. Next, we can add some finishing touches. So I'm going to add some trim to my windows using some excess brown. You can also take this time to add some texture to your walls and your shingles using your sculpting tool. Or you can add a doorknob or little details to the windows. Okay, use up whatever extra clay you've got if you feel inspired to. Just adding those pieces of trim around the window with some long brown worms. Like I said before, you can use whatever colors you want. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some texture to the door using my sculpting tool. Before I add a little doorknob. So I've got the doorknob ready. I'm just going to add some texture to my door before I put the doorknob on. You take as much time as you want to add all your little details. Use as much clay as you want. When you're finished, pop your clay pot and the tray into an oven at 150 degrees for 10 minutes. Once it's finished, I need you to take your sculpture out of the oven and leave it to cool someplace safe. It's very fragile while it's cooling. Once it's cool, you can plant it up with one of your favorite succulents and put it on a shelf so you can enjoy it. Thanks so much for creating with me. I hope you had fun. See you again soon.